Hello, and welcome to this Pharos Designer Screencast with me, Simon Hicks. I'm going to show you how the MIDI trigger uses variables to allow you to create and control dynamic lighting effects. Suppose you want to create a musical sculpture, where different sections of the sculpture light up depending which note or notes are played in an accompanying soundtrack. First, let's add some fixtures to represent the notes. Starting with a generic RGB LED fixture, you can change the dimensions to make it look more like a piano note, and then duplicate it. Let's have 8 vertically. Looks a little bit like a keyboard. Now you need to program a timeline for each note. So go to the Program view, expand the group, and add a fixed color preset to the first fixture. Make the fade-in time something very short, say 0.2 seconds, and the release time a bit longer, say half a second. The length should probably be about half a second too. Finally, I'll make the timeline element blue and change the name of the timeline to Note 1. Don't forget, you can always zoom in the timeline view to see your work a little more clearly. You need one of these timelines for each note in the sculpture, so click the Copy Timeline button, change the timeline name to Note 2, and then put the programming onto the second note. You can do this by moving the mouse cursor close to the bottom edge of the element until the cursor changes to a horizontal bar and a down arrow. Then just click and drag to pull the element down. You only want the programming on the second note, so pull the programming off the first note in the same way. I'll quickly do the rest. In order to start the timelines from the MIDI notes, you need to add a trigger. So go to the Trigger view and add a MIDI Input trigger. Click the Edit button in the Parameters section and open the MIDI Message Builder. In here, click the Append New button to add a new MIDI message to this trigger. You want the Pharos controller to listen for Note On messages, so pick this from the Status drop-down box. By default, this trigger is listening for a specific note with a particular velocity. But if you select Capture for both parameters, this trigger will fire when the Pharos controller receives any Note On message. In addition, the note and velocity will be captured and stored as variables, and you can use these stored variables in the trigger action. Click OK to close the MIDI Message Builder. Now you can add a Start Timeline action to the trigger. But instead of picking a timeline, leave the Variable button selected. The MIDI note is captured as variable 1. So now you've set up a trigger that will start the timeline with the same number as the MIDI note that's received. You can test this in the Simulate view. Select Project Mode and hit Start. Because the trigger was set up to capture variables, you can enter some test values into the text entry box next to the trigger button. You're not using variable 2 in the trigger, which is the note velocity, so you can just enter values for the note number. If I enter 1 and press enter, then Note 1 lights up. Same with 2 and 3. You can start to get an idea of what the output would look like on the real fixtures if the Pharos controller was receiving MIDI. If your timeline numbers don't correspond to the MIDI notes that you want to respond to, then you can easily change this. Go to Program View, choose a timeline, and then change the timeline number. Don't forget that you can have a look at the Pharos Designer Help for more information about the triggers that capture variables. Thanks for watching.